Mm, mm, mm. I just want to tell everybody that Jesus is Lord, you know, and that's for me to say because I have proof for myself that He's Lord, and I want to go in areas of my life where I'm terrified in. Uh, Getting on a plane, I'm scared of. Getting married, I'm terrified of. You know, I have lived a certain way all my life, and I have never known because of fear. I've never known love in a lot of areas, and so this is why I want Him to be God and show me that He's God in. But I have to be willing to go with Him and not be afraid. So for these 2 years, people will call it recovery or whatever. These 2 years of rehabilitation have been like profoundly like I've been in places inside my soul that I've been terrified to go for like all my life. And I'm seeing things. This is why I can say I'm not flesh and blood. This is why I can say Jesus is Lord. Because He has shown me something of Himself spiritually that no one can say or deny to me, or, that He's not. Because I have the evidence inside of myself, and this creates my belief. And this is why I believe why I get attacked even now. Because what God would like to do is to show Himself to an individual that's willing to listen, because He don't want to see none of us on this earth suffering. We are all considered His children by creation. We all may not be His children based upon following His lead, following His direction. His direction is to keep us away from being hurt. That's the sole purpose of it. He's a father, as a father, he goes through measures to show us that he loves us, so that we won't be in harm's way. This is why he has these rules of the law of love. If you place him number one, that means nothing else that tries to oppose him or tries to compare themselves to him, compare themselves to him, that won't be there anymore. Okay, and that could be anything. That could be anything that tried to emulate themselves as into a god. Anything. It could be anything materialistic. It could be anything uh, physical. It could be anything that's any creation other than the Creator Himself. So he want us to get to know Him without any shadow of a doubt that He is Spirit and in truth. So yeah, so that's a pathway by itself. Excuse me. Hmm. It's been an honor making these videos and everything else. It has been a privilege to make these videos, because I honestly walking out my life, and I hope that they are helpful to someone. And we are talking about the root of sin, and in this particular video here, we're talking about the consuming or the consumption of love, and how and why I guess the significance of it, why God would like to use it, because He ultimately wants to see us set free from fear. Now, a lot of us we have inherited fear, but not of our own. You know, Fear could have came through slavery. Predominantly, it did. You know, having your free will stricken from you, regardless if it's you know a particular ethnicity that have went through this unfortunate situation. We are all recipient. We are all Mankind is all recipients of this brutal fear. It just shows proof that there's not a lot of love on the earth, but it also shows and gives God the perfect platform to show that He's God, because He's going up against impossibility. Regardless to what we see, He still wants to show us that He's God. And no other way that He can show us is by defeating impossibilities. And this is where love comes in and show how powerful love truly is. In the midst of what you've been through, in the midst of what history you can discover, you still, in the midst of all that, you still see love being the knight in shining armor, or being in the knight in shining armor, saving the day. Every time that there was a great fear on the earth, love has always come in and triumphed over it without using anything that's fearful or anything that's brutal or anything that's malicious. It always came in with the integrity of the kindness and the peace and the joy, and it came and eradicated everything. Now, now a person may say like, "Where in the Bible, God, there's certain people that die and everything and all that," but like once again, everybody is not going to walk up under this law of love. The law of love is to place God number one, and they're like, "Who is God?" That's for you to find out. And I could say that pathway to God is going through Jesus, but then you have to see for yourself that Jesus is who he is. This goes with the questions. And then Jesus would lead you to the Father, and the Father would show you the kingdom of heaven, and he would show you these things of how the mysteries of why all this stuff has happened. He would show you all these different things. I just know the route that I went that gave me the clear, precise, whatever proof. And I don't need to, convince anyone of this. And if I have to convince you, then you are really don't want to know for yourself. You want somebody to tell you so you can live off what they experienced. But this whole walk of life is about you experiencing it for yourself. So that's my journey with that. And so once again, we're on the subject of the root of sin, and this is the subject of um, being consumed by love. And every aspect of your life, no matter what you've been through, no matter what thought comes to your mind, it comes to your soul, or to get you to imagine on it, to get you to form a decision, or intellect, or is if it's not in the demonstration, illustration of love is designed to kill, steal, and destroy you. It doesn't. I don't. It doesn't matter who it's coming from. When God becomes real to you, you will understand why He's giving us a son. Because He tried to talk to us one on one, but we refused to listen to that. We was not what I mean by refuse. We were so full of fear, we just don't believe it. And so we get full of ourselves, and the disbelief, we get pride and all this other good stuff, and we walk away from Him. And this developed a lifestyle that is just in defiance to Him. It's rebellious, and it would tell you that you don't have to go by His rules, which is the sole purpose of Satan himself. He has purposely, he is who he is to separate us from God. And while he's separating us from God, he's going to God accusing us. So not only is he doing it from one perspective, but on the other hand, he's telling God, like, look what they're doing. So in spite of all that, God made, even before Lucifer did what he did, God made arrangements, to have his son to be sacrificed. Everything was put in motion. Everything was put in place to redeem us. Even when we don't even know, even before when God said, let there be, everything was. Everything existed. Now, everything didn't come to form until it was the time of fulfillment. Everything around it had to be in place for, let's say, for example, for you, while you're here on the earth at the time that you was born. Everything had to be in place for your design purpose to be fulfilled. You're not just here to have a job, or to have money, or to have things. You're not here because of all those things. You are designed because inside of you have a very, very specific purpose. And everything before you got here, everything had to be in order for your arrival. This is why a person said, like, well, I was born out of wedlock. I was born with this, and my family was that. And it really doesn't matter. None of that really matters. Some households have had better upbringing. Some households hasn't. We are all we are all victimized of fear, which means abandonment of love. We are all bastards and not knowing what love is. So we have lived through a lot of evil. We have seen and recognized and have been taught up under and exposed to a lot of evil. But in the midst of all that, God is still God, and He's still full of love, and He wants to show us in the midst of all that that never happened. The person said, like, yes, it did. So that's what He wants to remove from our soul. So with that, we can get to the origin of why sin is. We get to the origin if God is alive. We get to the origin and the very significance of why love is so important. Because God is all love. There is no evil with God. There is no hatred with God. None of this came from Him. There's no lying in God. There's no dishonesty in God. There is no killing in God. There's none of that. Man does a lot of things on their own without love. So we'll read a story in the Bible when God was sent out the spies. I think it was Jacob and I think was it Moses. Moses sent out the spies because God promised them a land, and He sent out the spies, Jacob and Caleb, and they went out and He sent out the spies, whatever, and the spies saw the land was full of giants and whatever, and they came back with a report saying like we can't overtake this because they're larger than us and all that. But humanity, like I said, man may know facts. Facts is those are people. Facts are though they are creations, but we don't know the truth of the matter of how they was actually created. We don't know if uh, when Lucifer did what he did in heaven, and by saying he wanted to be like the Most High, and doing that, he have convinced a third of the angels, a third of whatever, if they were archangels or not, or seraphims or whatever thrones or dominions, whatever principalities. We don't know that extent of who followed him. But those that followed him, they are making war against love. They are making war, and they go throughout time. They have been going throughout time to convince every soul, every creation, that God doesn't exist, to turn away from God. This is why Satan said, "I want to build my throne among. I'm going to build my throne among the congregation. I'm going to be like the Most High God," which is to say, whatever that God has built up, I'm going to go out and make war against to destroy. And he can't create anything, so he had to steal something. So he, through deception, he convinced those to follow him, and they followed him. A great illustration of this movie was Marvel Studios has a movie called Doctor Strange, and it gives like an indication a lot about this. But it's so many movies that will always talk about good versus evil, how good and evil were once together, but something that was of evil, something that was so good that wanted to be separated from that is amazing, because it goes beyond what we know. It goes beyond comprehension. How can something be good be evil? You would have to do something you have to separate yourself so far from good. Remember, Lucifer had no redeemer. We have the redeemer. This is why Jesus is so significant to Christians, to those that believe, because we believe that we don't have to be responsible for the ones who did the sins before. It's like I don't have to be responsible for the acts of my parents. It's like they don't have to be responsible for the acts of their parents. But if they don't know this, then they're going to reproduce what their parents did. So this is the significance of Jesus and why God sent forth the Son. Because remember, God is going out of his way to show us that he loves us. He's not giving up on mankind. Because if he did give up, if he were to give up on mankind wouldn't be. It's like the story of Noah's Ark. Noah's Ark was given God had given mankind another possibility, because mankind had got so wicked in their ways away from love. It was no love anymore. It's no different than how it is now. We hear on the news, we hear whatever, the how human trafficking, or we hear how people getting killed, slavery, you know, it all this stuff, through the years and through over time and centuries, we have heard this stuff. Mankind has proven that we are malicious, that we are. But in the midst of all the stuff that we have heard, love always has abound. Love always risen. Because all God needs is one person, and that can start a fire. He just needs one person that's going to believe with no doubt. That is consumed with His love. And like I said, it goes past race, creed, traditions, and all. It goes past all that. And love wants to consume us all as a family. Imagine this. Everyone, honestly, can actually be successful at one time. The lie is that we all can't. And the only way that we can be successful is that we steal, or we destroy the other person. That's a lie. Everybody can be blessed at the same time, which means everybody can have their share at the same time. There's enough resources to go around. There's so much resources to go around, money is not even a factor. That's how much of a lie, or the root of evil, the love of money is. Money doesn't cover everything. And we honestly believe that it takes money to be provided for. And that's a lie. There's enough resources without man inventions, or without man creation, or their duplication of creating, God, to have resources to go around. There's enough resources for not one person to be without on this earth. And they said that there's over 1 trillion people. There's enough resources to go around to have not one person to be without. This is what love would do. Love would cover everything. If love can cover the multitude of sins and perfect the soul, that it doesn't have to be in torment of its past, that it eradicates it so much that it never existed, that you can walk in forgiveness for any person who have wronged you, who have hurt you, who have whatever. And for a person to say that's unbelievable. You just filled with rage and hurt and vengeance. So you're going to be tormented until you get rid of that. So, but in spite of all that, God has made provisions. Just like He did when Lucifer did what he did. He made provisions. Just like He did whoever did what they did to you when you was growing up as a kid. He made provisions. No matter what happened, He made a way that you always come out on top. A lot of people die untimely. A lot of people die prematurely based upon holding on to this wickedness. Now, the enemy is walking the earth to and fro, seeing who he may destroy. And if you are following his orders, he does have right to wipe you out, to knock you out. Somebody says like a innocent bystander, but that goes as far as how God can talk to you. And a person said like it's a child, but you don't know what that child has said within himself. Like, I'm not going to listen to God. The Bible says the kingdom of heaven is like children. Or to get into the kingdom of heaven, you have to be like a child. But Jesus will go to the extent that says they asked Jesus, who is the greatest in the kingdom? So Jesus came and wrapped his arms around some children. All right. But there was particularly, these children were very special. It wasn't based upon ethnicity and nothing like that. How they was considered special, they believed in him. They believed in him. So any child that believes in good, it becomes special. They don't see death. A person like, when my child died, if they believed in God, they never got a chance to see death. So this is where the facts draw its line. We see the beginning, we see the end. We see that they was created, we see they ended, but we don't see the in-between. We don't know the truth. We don't know why there was purpose. We don't know that connection that they had with God. So we live in fear of this. That's why facts only go so far, and it keeps you in bondage. Or facts is the shell of the truth. You may have a lot of knowledge of the matter, but you don't have the truth of the matter. So somebody say, well, knowledge is truth. No, knowledge is the proof for you to have a conclusion. But that's a physical conclusion. That's not a spiritual conclusion. The spiritual conclusion is the truth. Why were you purposely made and created on this earth? This is what the truth is, and this is what God holds, and this is what He would like for us to know. He would like for us to know. He wants us to come to the knowledge of Him and the truth of Him, to be saved, to save from the lie, to be saved from the lie that came before the foundations of the world. Satan did what he did from the very beginning. Lucifer did what he did from the very beginning. He didn't do it when Adam came aboard. He did what he did before the very beginning. So Jesus was already in motion at the right hand of God even before Lucifer did what he did, because God is the beginning and the end. He knows all. That's all truth. How much of that you want God to reveal to you, that comes to the point of you accepting Him, not trying to expose Him or trying to see if He's real or not. But if you believe like He did with the little children, if they believed in Him, you don't see death. And God reveals you these mysteries of all creation, because it goes past time. It goes past the knowledge of what we think that we know. What we know is knowledge, and is a collection of facts. And that's the proof, and for most of us, that's all that we need. But that's not the inevitable, undoubtable truth. The truth sets us free. Where does this freedom at? It's inside of our soul. The mind, will, emotion, intellect, and imagination. Does facts give a conclusion to that? No, it doesn't. It still keeps you in a time loop. You got all these questions of how, when, and where, what, but why? You still, because it's not fulfilled. It hasn't set the soul free. So that's what truth wants to do. With that being said, we are on the subject of the root of sin. I'm sorry, we're continuing the series of the root of sin, and we're on the subject of being consumed by God's love. God really wants to consume us with His love, that our soul is so perfected that there is no fear. We don't know any fear. And for a person that's impossible, that's why God wants to introduce us to it. Because that impossibility is separating you from Him. He is a father, first and foremost. Excuse me. Regardless if the person believes it or not, He is a father, and He desires to be a father to us all. He desires for every soul to be set free. Every soul. Because remember, we are being lied to by someone who walked away from Him. Lucifer had no reason to walk away from God, nor did the angels or any ones that the principalities, whatever, that he convinced to come with them. They had no reason to walk away from love. Just like we have, if you are being loved by a situation, what is the reason for you to walk away from it? That means something comes inside of your soul and say that it does a comparison. And this goes back to the story of Adam. You know, Adam was so one in love, he was so perfect. Which perfection is to say he's not without anything. He has everything provided for. He's perfect. To be imperfection, that means something is missing. So Adam was so perfect that he didn't want anything. He had a need for anything. So what Satan did, he came and gave Adam and Eve a question. Does God not know that you'll become a God in your own eyes if you partake of this tree of the knowledge of the good and evil? If Adam is perfect, why do he need to know anything else? So the enemy deceived himself. The enemy deceived him to believe that there's more that he needs to know. There's nothing more he needs to know. This same thing goes for us. If God wants to tell you who He is, there's nothing more that you need. That will fulfill everything. But what the enemy would like to tell you is like, well, God is not going to tell you everything. God's going to keep everything from you. Or Jesus is not real, or God is not real. That's to keep you in His web of lies. Remember, he started this from the very beginning, and he wants to keep mankind inside of this web of lies. And now we go by what the proof is. The proof is what we honestly see, what we heard, or what's written. These documentations and all this stuff, and this is proof. This is truth. Nah, there's a reason why every individual that done these acts or was involved in these acts, regardless if they was malicious or not, there's a reason for why they were there. That's the truth that we don't know. That's the truth that facts don't cover. So with that being said, my people of faith, you are the blessed. Let's be the blessing. Let's keep walking. God wants to consume us with his love, to perfect us in our soul, that we don't have to be fearful. And this is coming from a person who have lived with fear all his life. You can honestly be set free. And yeah, this is the point of the video, where it's going to be a personal invitation that you can get to know God yourself. But the only way you can get to know God, you're going to have to be atoned from fear. You're going to have to be separated from fear. But you can't separate from fear because it's a spirit. How can you separate from something that you don't believe that you are in the first place? You don't believe you're a spirit, so how can you be separated from a spirit that's separating you from God, your creator? So this is why he sent forth the Son. His Son removes the sin, so now therefore you no longer have to be held in contempt or reminded of the sin. So now you can go before the Father and you can talk to him as though you are his child, because you actually is, minus the sin, minus the lie that has started, what he gave it to Adam and Eve in the beginning. All right, with that being said, my people of faith, let's keep walking.